Welcome to our channel Folk Street Mystery, where every story begins in shadow and every clue goes under a single street lamp. Step inside. The next case is already waiting. Don't forget to share thoughts. Your feedback keeps the mystery alive. Now let's begin.
Nero Wolfe's birthday party turns deadly classic detective mystery. Chapter 1, The Invitation No One Could Refuse. If there's one thing you learn early working for Nero Wolfe, it's this: the man doesn't celebrate birthdays. He tolerates them the way a king tolerates rain, by staying indoors and expecting the world to behave itself. So when I came into the office that Tuesday morning and found a heavy, cream-colored envelope centered on his desk like a challenge, I knew right away something was off. Wolfe was already installed in his red leather armchair, perfectly vertical, hands folded over his stomach as if guarding it from insult. The room smelled faintly of orchids drifting down from the plant rooms upstairs, mixed with Fritz's coffee, black, rich, and serious. Wolfe had not yet spoken, which meant he was waiting for me to commit the first sin of the day. I dropped into my chair, crossed my legs, and nodded at the envelope. "Before you say it," I told him, "I didn't put that there, I didn't open it, and I didn't invite anybody." "You are verbose," Wolfe said mildly. "And incorrect in your assumptions. You will open it." I raised an eyebrow. "I don't open other people's mail." "You open mine with regrettable frequency." That was true. I slit the envelope and slid the card out. It was thick, expensive, and smelled faintly of cologne that probably cost more than my monthly rent would have if I didn't live here. Gold lettering. No return address. I read it once. Then again. "Well," I said, "either this is a joke, or someone's got a real death wish." Wolfe's eyes sharpened. "Read it aloud, Archie. Slowly. Enunciate." I did. "Mr. Nero Wolfe. You are cordially invited to attend a private birthday celebration in your honor, to be held at your residence this coming Friday evening at 7 o'clock. Your presence is not optional. A friend." I looked up. That last part's my favorite. Wolfe's mouth compressed into something that might have passed for a smile if you were generous and partially blind. "No signature," he said. "No explanation. An impertinence." "Sure," I agreed. "But a confident one. Whoever wrote this knows you don't attend parties, don't like surprises, and don't respond well to threats." "Precisely." Wolfe shifted slightly in his chair, a movement that for him qualified as action. "Therefore, Archie, the author also knows that I will accept." I stared at him. "You're kidding." "No. You hate birthdays." "I despise coercion more." That was my cue to feel the first itch between my shoulder blades, the one that usually means trouble has bought a ticket and is already on the platform. "Okay," I said carefully. "Let's say you play along. Who's invited? Who's paying? And why does this feel like the opening chapter of something I'm going to regret?" Wolfe ignored the last question, which was answer enough. "You will make inquiries," he said. "Discreetly." "Discreet's my middle name," I said. "Right after trouble." He snorted. "You will also inform Fritz that there will be guests. He will be displeased. So will you." "Yes. But I will be curious." That settled it. Curiosity always won with Wolfe. It was the one vice he never pretended to resist. I spent the rest of the day doing what Wolfe did best by proxy, asking questions that made people uncomfortable. The problem was, nobody admitted to sending the invitation, and the few names that kept floating to the surface didn't like each other enough to cooperate on anything, let alone a birthday party. By dinner time, I had a short list and a longer headache. When I got back to the brownstone, Fritz was standing in the kitchen doorway like a general who'd just been told his army was marching into quicksand. "Mr. Archie," he said, "Mr. Wolfe tells me there will be guests." "Yeah," I said. "Surprise." Fritz sighed. "Surprises are for children and criminals. Let's hope it's the first." He looked at me. "It never is." Upstairs, Wolfe was already settled into his post-dinner routine, a bottle of beer within reach, eyes half-lidded in thought. I gave him my report. He listened without interruption, which meant he was filing everything away for later use. When I finished, he said, the anonymity is deliberate. The venue is strategic. The timing is symbolic. Translation. This is not a celebration, Wolfe said. It is a provocation. That night, I got a phone call around 11. The city outside was quiet in that way New York only manages when it's holding its breath. The voice on the other end was male, controlled, and careful. You're Nero Wolfe's assistant, the voice said. Last I checked. Tell him the party will proceed as planned. And tell him, a pause, that the past has a long memory. The line went dead. Friday arrived wearing a gray sky and bad intentions. By 6:30, the brownstone was too clean, too quiet. Wolfe wore a formal suit he hated, which alone made the situation dangerous. Fritz was furious in 4 languages. At 7 sharp, the doorbell rang. I opened it. By 7:15, we had 5 guests in the office, all smiling the way people do when they're pretending they don't know why they're there. Old grudges. Old deals. Old looks exchanged like knives under the table. Wolfe surveyed them from his chair, monumental and silent. I realized then that whoever had planned this hadn't invited them for Wolfe's birthday. They'd invited them for a reckoning. And whatever was coming next was going to happen right here, in this room, under Wolfe's orchids and my watchful eye. I had the uneasy feeling that before the night was over, one of those smiles was going to disappear for good. And birthdays, I decided, were overrated. Chapter 2, A Birthday with Too Many Guests. If you've never watched Nero Wolfe endure small talk, you've missed one of the city's most private entertainments. It's like seeing a bull forced to wear ballet slippers, dignified, furious, and one wrong word away from homicide. By 7:15 we had 5 guests in the office, and the room already felt smaller. Wolfe sat in his red leather throne as if he'd been bolted there by the Department of Buildings. The desk lamp threw a warm circle over the blotter, but it didn't warm the air. The air was full of people trying to look comfortable while they measured exits. I stood near the door, playing host and bouncer at once. There were certain advantages to being Wolfe's legs. You got to see trouble coming from the sidewalk. The first guest had arrived with the confidence of a man who believed the world owed him interest. Tall, 60-ish, gray at the temples, with the kind of expensive suit that didn't wrinkle because it probably had its own lawyer. Harold K. Minetti, he said, offering me a hand. I wrote Mr. Wolfe a letter once. It was not answered. I took his hand and gave him a smile the size of a dime. You'll be thrilled to know we're not answering letters tonight either. Come in. Minetti's eyes slid past me to Wolfe, and the polite mask tightened. Wolfe gave him a look of such calm disapproval you'd think Minetti had tracked mud into the plant rooms. The second guest was a woman who didn't bother with polite masks. She was in her 40s, sharp-boned, dark-haired, and dressed in a simple black coat that looked like it was designed to make men confess sins. Lila Kerr, she said, like a verdict. I knew the name. Everyone who read papers and cared about lawsuits knew it. She was the kind of attorney who could make a judge apologize to a defendant. Her eyes flicked to Wolfe, and for a fraction of a second something passed between them, recognition, irritation, maybe something older. Miss Kerr, Wolfe said, pronouncing it as if he'd tasted it before and found it sour. Mr. Wolfe, she returned. The third guest came in with a nervous grin and a hat he kept twisting in his hands as if it might hatch. A man in his late 30s, thin, wearing a cheap suit that had seen better days and better owners. Calvin Pruitt, he said quickly. Well, I don't know why I'm here. That makes 2 of us, I told him. Sit down before you start sweating on the rug. The 4th guest didn't wait for my permission. He brushed past me in a cloud of cigarette smoke and resentment, tall and athletic, face handsome in a way that suggested he practiced in mirrors. Rudy Kestrel, he announced. I was told to come. I came. He didn't offer a hand. He didn't look at me. He looked at Wolfe like he was trying to decide whether to insult him or sue him. Wolfe's eyes narrowed a millimeter. "Mr. Kestrel. Your manners have not improved." Rudy's mouth twitched. "Still sitting in the same chair, huh?" "That chair," Wolfe said, "is an emblem of stability. You are an emblem of vulgarity." I had to bite my cheek to keep from laughing. Rudy didn't. The fifth guest arrived last, and he arrived like bad news, quietly, neatly, and with no desire to be noticed. Shorter than the others, wearing a plain overcoat and wire-rimmed glasses, he moved with that careful, self-effacing posture that says, "I am harmless," and often means, "I am dangerous." "Dr. Emil Varga," he said to me, voice soft. "I received an invitation." I nodded. "So did the rest of you. You're in good company. Or bad. Depends on the hour." Varga stepped into the office, and his eyes, cool, observant, went straight to Wolfe. Not to the chair. Not to the orchids. Wolfe's face. Wolfe's expression didn't change, but his fingertips pressed together in that little steeple gesture he used when he was arranging facts into a weapon. 5 guests. 5 personalities. 5 possible motives. And still no host, no explanation, no cake, no candles. Just Wolfe, a bottle of beer at his elbow like a faithful pet, and me standing guard. I cleared my throat. "All right, folks. Welcome to the mystery birthday party. If you brought gifts, hand them over. If you brought grievances, take a number." Minetti gave a short laugh. "Amusing. Are we to wait for the friend who arranged this?" "I would prefer," Wolfe said, voice smooth as a razor, "that you cease using that word." Lila Kerr's eyes narrowed. "You think whoever invited us is present?" "I think," Wolfe said, "that he is either present or confident of his concealment." Rudy Kestrel flicked ash into my fireplace. I gave him a look. "You mind?" I said. He smiled without warmth. "Not particularly." I took the ashtray from the side table and held it out like a threat. He dumped the ash and kept watching Wolfe. Calvin Pruitt shifted in his chair. I got a phone call. A man. He said if I didn't come, something would happen. Something bad. Minetti's eyebrows lifted. So it was a threat. Lila Kerr said, "Of course it was a threat. Look at where we are. It's not a party. It's a cage." Wolfe's mouth tightened. "Miss Kerr is not wrong. However, it is my cage. And therefore I will determine the rules." Rudy snorted. "Rules? Like what?" "No one leaves until you lecture us." Wolfe's gaze pinned him. "No one leaves until I am satisfied." That landed with a dull thud. The room went quiet except for the faint tick of the clock and the distant hum of New York through the windows, taxis, horns, a city pretending not to listen. Fritz appeared in the doorway with a tray. If there was one thing Fritz did better than cook, it was look disapprovingly at strangers in Wolfe's home. He set down glasses and a bottle with professional calm. "Beer for Mr. Wolfe. Water for the others." Minetti frowned. "Is there not anything stronger?" Fritz's eyes flicked over him. "There is. But it is not for you." He disappeared again. I could have hugged him. Wolfe sipped his beer and said, "Now. We will speak of why you are here." Minetti spread his hands. "I assume it involves my business interests." "It does not," Wolfe said. Pruitt swallowed. Then why?" Wolfe's eyes moved from face to face, pausing on each like a spotlight. "Because each of you has a connection to an event that occurred 12 years ago." The temperature in the room dropped. Even Rudy Kestrel stopped smirking. Lila Kerr's jaw tightened. "Don't." Wolfe ignored her. "An event involving a man named Victor Talbot." That name landed like a stone in water. Ripples. Reactions. Minetti blinked, too quickly. "I don't know the name." Pruitt's face drained of color. Rudy's eyes sharpened. Talbot's dead. Varga said softly, he disappeared. Ah. Contradiction. The first one, and it came from the quiet guy. Wolfe's gaze rested on Dr. Varga. Indeed. Lila Kerr spoke through clenched teeth. Why are you bringing that up now? Wolfe's voice was calm. Because someone else has brought it up, Miss Kerr. With this, he gestured to the invitation, and with tonight. Minetti leaned forward. What is Talbot to you? Wolfe's eyes flashed. A mistake. That was interesting. Wolfe didn't admit mistakes unless there was profit in it. I said, okay, let's keep this friendly. Or at least civil. Whoever dragged you all here wants something. If it's money, Minetti's got it. If it's revenge, Rudy's got experience. If it's legal trouble, Miss Kerr can juggle it. If it's panic, Pruitt's already there. And if it's medical. I glanced at Varga. Well, we've got a doctor. Varga didn't smile. I am not practicing. Even better, I said. Less paperwork. A faint sound from upstairs interrupted us, like a door closing softly. I froze. Wolfe's head didn't turn, but his eyes flicked toward the ceiling. Fritz shouldn't have been upstairs. The plant rooms were closed. Wolfe's orchid hours were sacred. I kept my voice light. Did anyone else bring a guest? Rudy shrugged. No. Minetti looked offended. Certainly not. Lila Kerr's gaze was sharp. Someone's in this house. Wolfe set his beer down with deliberate care. Archie. That single word meant, go. I moved to the hall, heart settling into that familiar rhythm of trouble. The brownstone felt different with strangers in it, less like home, more like a stage. The lighting was softer, shadows deeper. I climbed the stairs quickly but quietly. The scent of orchid strengthened as I went up, sweet and damp, like a greenhouse hiding secrets. At the top landing, the door to Wolfe's office, his private sanctum beyond the plant rooms, was closed. It had been open when I'd passed earlier. I approached, listening. Nothing. I reached for the knob. It turned. And the door opened on darkness. A second later, a voice behind me, soft, near my ear, said, Mr. Goodwin. I spun. It was Dr. Varga. He stood at the top of the stairs as if he'd been there all along, hands empty, expression unreadable. What, I said slowly, are you doing up here? Varga's eyes held mine. I thought I heard something. Like you. That was the second contradiction. He hadn't left the office, unless he had. Downstairs, a chair scraped loudly. Then another sound, a muffled thump, like something heavy hitting carpet. I bolted back down the stairs, Varga right behind me, both of us moving too fast for polite explanations. When I burst into the office, the room had rearranged itself into chaos. Calvin Pruitt's chair was empty. So was his coat. Minetti stood halfway up from his seat, eyes wide. Rudy Kestrel had one hand inside his jacket like he'd seen too many gangster movies. Lila Kerr was already at the window, scanning the street. Wolfe sat perfectly still, but his eyes were hard. Fritz stood in the doorway, pale. What happened? I snapped. Lila Kerr said, Pruitt just got up and left. No one stopped him. Minetti barked, that's absurd, I would have seen. Rudy cut in, he was right there. Then he wasn't. Wolfe's voice was quiet, and it carried. Mr. Pruitt has not left, Archie. I stared at him. How do you know? Wolfe nodded toward the hall. On the rug near the threshold, half hidden by shadow, was Calvin Pruitt's hat, crumpled. And beside it, a small dark smear on the hardwood. Not much. Just enough. Enough to make my stomach tighten. Fritz whispered, Mr. Archie. I heard a sound in the back. In the basement. Wolfe's eyes stayed on mine. Archie. Proceed. Of course. The legs again. I grabbed the desk drawer key, yanked it open, and took out my revolver. I didn't point it at anyone, yet, but I made sure they saw it. Nobody move, I said. Nobody leaves. And if anyone so much as sneezes without permission, I'll write it down and Wolfe will insult you for it. Rudy's mouth curled. This your idea of a party favor? No, I said. This is my idea of a night going bad. I headed for the basement door, gun low, senses high. The brownstone suddenly felt too tall, too old, too full of hidden corners. Behind me, Wolfe's voice floated after me, calm as ever. Archie, he called. Be careful. Whoever orchestrated this has begun. And that, I decided, was the worst possible birthday entertainment, a man disappearing inside our house, with 4 suspicious guests and 1 anonymous puppeteer still holding the strings. Chapter 3, Orchids, Autres, and an Ominous Interruption. The basement stairs in Wolfe's brownstone were never meant to inspire confidence. They were narrow, steep, and old enough to have opinions. As I went down them with my revolver loose in my hand, I could hear the house breathing above me, pipes ticking, floorboards sighing, the muted tension of 4 people pretending they weren't listening. The light switch was at the bottom. Naturally. I descended 1 step at a time, letting my eyes adjust, listening for anything that didn't belong, footsteps, breathing, the scrape of panic. All I got was the smell of damp stone and cleaning solvent, with an undernote that made the back of my throat tighten. Blood has a smell. It doesn't need to be dramatic to announce itself. Pruitt, I called softly. If this is a joke, it's not landing. No answer. I reached the bottom, flipped the switch, and the single bulb blinked on like it had to think about it first. Calvin Pruitt was there. He was slumped against the far wall, legs folded awkwardly, head tilted to one side as if he'd lost interest halfway through listening. His eyes were open, glassy and unfocused, staring at nothing. A dark stain spread slowly across the front of his shirt, right where his heart should have been. No gun. No knife in sight. Just Pruitt, very still, and very done. I swore once, quietly. Then I checked anyway, pulse, breath, the useless motions you go through because you're human and hope dies hard. He was dead. I straightened up, holstered the gun, and took in the rest of the scene. The basement was clean, Fritz's territory, stacked shelves, neatly labeled boxes, a workbench. No sign of a struggle. No overturned anything. Whatever had happened, it had been quick and controlled. Which meant it had been planned. I went back upstairs and found Wolfe exactly where I'd left him, in his chair, hands folded, expression carved out of granite. The guests clustered like nervous pigeons. It's Pruitt, I said. He's dead. That hit them all differently. Minetti's face went slack, then tight. Rudy Kestrel muttered something unprintable. Lila Kerr closed her eyes for a second, then opened them with a lawyer's clarity. Dr. Varga didn't react at all, which I didn't like. Fritz crossed himself and whispered something in German that didn't sound like a recipe. Wolfe exhaled slowly. Cause. 1 neat hole in the chest, I said. No weapon in sight. A gunshot? Lila Kerr asked. No noise, I said. Which means small caliber, or a very good pillow. Rudy snorted. You accusing someone? Not yet, I said. But I will. Wolfe raised a hand. Archie. Time. I nodded. Yeah. I went to the phone and dialed the number we all pretended didn't exist until it did. Inspector Kramer would arrive eventually, grumbling and suspicious, but not fast enough to save the evening. While we waited, Wolfe did something rare. He stood up. It wasn't dramatic, no thunderclap, but it changed the room. Wolfe rose from his chair like a monument deciding to walk. He moved to the desk, rested one hand on it, and looked at the guests. You are now, he said calmly, participants in a homicide investigation. Minetti sputtered. This is outrageous. I demand. You may demand silence, Wolfe cut in. And you will receive it. Minetti shut up. Wolfe continued, Mr. Pruitt did not die accidentally. Nor did he die impulsively. Someone in this room, or someone with access to this house, killed him. Rudy leaned back. That's a big accusation. It is an accurate one. Lila Kerr spoke carefully. You're assuming the killer is here. I am assuming, Wolfe said, that the killer intended me to know. That landed harder than the rest. I leaned against the wall, watching faces. You learn things when people think they're being watched. You learn more when they forget. Okay, I said. Let's rewind. Pruitt was nervous from the minute he walked in. Who here talked to him privately? Minetti shook his head. I barely know the man. Rudy smirked. He looked like he'd faint if someone raised their voice. Not my type. Lila Kerr said nothing. Varga said, he asked me, something. All eyes turned to him. What? I asked. About Victor Talbot, Varga said softly. He wanted to know what really happened. That earned him a sharp look from Lila Kerr. And? Wolfe prompted. I told him, Varga said, that some questions are dangerous. Did you tell him where the basement was? I asked. Varga met my gaze. No. I believed him about that. Didn't mean I trusted him. Fritz cleared his throat. Mr. Wolfe, dinner. Every head turned to him. Yes, Wolfe said firmly. Dinner. Minetti stared. Are you serious? I am always serious about food, Wolfe said. Fritz, serve. Fritz hesitated, glanced at Pruitt's empty chair, then nodded and disappeared. Rudy laughed incredulously. A man's dead and you're eating? Wolfe's eyes were icy. A man is dead whether I eat or not. Hunger does not assist logic. That was Wolfe, stubborn enough to make murder wait until after the entree. Dinner was surreal. We ate in the office, plates balanced, the air thick with tension and the smell of roast duck. No one spoke much. Wolfe ate methodically. I barely tasted anything. Halfway through, the phone rang. I answered. Goodwin. The voice on the other end was the same as before, controlled, calm. Mr. Pruitt has been removed, the voice said. Yeah, I said. We noticed. You will find, the voice continued, that events will proceed. Who is this? I demanded. A pause. Someone who remembers Victor Talbot. The line went dead. I slammed the receiver down. Our friend called. He's keeping score. Wolfe nodded. As expected. Lila Kerr set her fork down. You knew this would happen. I suspected, Wolfe said. I did not know who would be the victim. Rudy's eyes were hard. So Pruitt was expendable. Wolfe looked at him. Mr. Pruitt was frightened. Frightened men are often selected as examples. Silence. After dinner, Wolfe returned to his chair, beer in hand, routine restored as if the house demanded it. Fritz cleared plates with quiet efficiency. Archie, Wolfe said, I require information. You'll get it, I said. From me and from Kramer. And from them, Wolfe said, gesturing at the guests. They will not leave. Minetti protested. You can't detain us. Wolfe's mouth twitched. Observe. The doorbell rang. Inspector Kramer arrived 10 minutes later, rain on his coat, suspicion in his eyes. He took one look at the room and groaned. Wolfe. Tell me this isn't what it looks like. It is precisely what it looks like, Wolfe said. And more. Downstairs, the body waited. Upstairs, secrets pressed closer. And somewhere in the city, a voice with a long memory was enjoying the party. Wolfe raised his beer, not in toast, but in acknowledgement. The birthday celebration, it seemed, was finally underway. Chapter 4, Nero Wolfe observes, Archie investigates. Inspector Kramer has a way of filling a room even before he opens his mouth. He stood just inside the office door, rain dripping from his hat brim, eyes moving from Wolfe to the guests like he was taking inventory of a warehouse he didn't trust. "A birthday party," he said finally. "You couldn't just buy a cake." Wolfe lifted his beer. "Good evening, Inspector. Your punctuality is appreciated." Kramer grunted. "Where's the body?" "Basement," I said. "Neat hole in the chest, no weapon, no mess. Someone wanted it tidy." Kramer's eyes flicked to the guests. "Nobody leaves." Minetti opened his mouth. Kramer raised a finger. "That includes you." The inspector took 2 uniformed men downstairs while a third stayed put near the door. The house settled into that peculiar quiet you get when authority arrives and everyone suddenly remembers they're innocent. Wolfe resumed his chair as if nothing had happened. Fritz appeared with fresh beer, routine restored, because Wolfe insisted on it. I caught Wolfe's eye, and he gave me the slightest nod. "Go." I started with Minetti because men like him talk when they think they're controlling the conversation. We stepped into the front room. Outside, New York hummed, taxis splashing through puddles, a distant siren arguing with the night. "Mr. Minetti," I said, "you look like a man who hates surprises." "I hate incompetence," he snapped. "This is an outrage. I will sue." "You'll do a lot of things," I said pleasantly. "But right now you'll answer questions. When did you last see Calvin Pruitt?" He hesitated half a beat too long. "Years ago." "Funny," I said. "He seemed to recognize you." Minetti's nostrils flared. "I have a public face." "Everybody does," I said. "Some just keep theirs in a vault." He leaned closer. "I didn't kill him." "I didn't say you did," I said. "Yet." I let that sit. He broke eye contact first. Lila Kerr was next. She stood by the window, watching headlights smear across wet pavement. "You're good at this," I said. "Standing where you can see everything." She smiled thinly. "Habit." "Pruitt talked to you tonight?" "Yes." "About Talbot?" Her jaw tightened. "Everyone's talking about Talbot. Not everyone's admitting it." She turned to me. "You want a confession?" "I want the truth," I said. "Confessions are for priests and precincts." She sighed. Pruitt was terrified. He said someone had been calling him. Reminding him. I told him to keep his mouth shut. "That's advice," I said. "Not murder." Her eyes held mine. "Be careful, Mr. Goodwin. Some advice is fatal if ignored." Rudy Kestrel didn't wait to be called. He sauntered over, confidence back in place like a favorite jacket. "You think it was me," he said. "I think you like being thought of," I said. "Why'd you come?" "Because someone told me to." "Who?" He grinned. "Same guy who told you this was a party." "Did you know Pruitt?" "Barely." "That's a lie," I said. He laughed. "You're quick. Occupational hazard." His smile faded. "Talbot owed me. Pruitt knew it. That's all." "That's never all," I said. Dr. Varga was last. He waited quietly near the hall, hands folded, eyes thoughtful. "You're calm," I said. "Shock affects people differently," he replied. "Where were you when Pruitt left the room?" He didn't hesitate. "Here." "Funny," I said. "I saw you upstairs." His eyes flickered. Briefly. "Looking for?" He paused. "Answers." That was the third contradiction, and it stuck. I regrouped with Wolfe while Kramer's men finished downstairs. "Observations?" Wolfe asked. "Plenty," I said. "No conclusions." "Good," Wolfe said. "Conclusions are premature." I told him everything, hesitations, contradictions, the phone call. Wolfe listened, eyes half-lidded, mind chewing. "Mr. Goodwin," he said finally, "you will go out." "Out?" "Yes. The murderer expects us to remain here. We will disappoint him." I grabbed my coat and hit the street. The city wrapped around me, wet sidewalks, neon reflections, the smell of coffee and rain. I hailed a cab and fed it names, diners Pruitt might have used, bars Talbot had favored, shadows where memories lingered. At a greasy spoon on 9th Avenue, I got lucky. A waitress remembered Pruitt, nervous, jumpy, always looking over his shoulder. "He met a man here last week," she said. "Quiet guy. Glasses. Varga." Back in the cab, the radio crackled with late-night jazz. I felt the pieces shifting. When I returned to the brownstone, Wolfe was exactly where I'd left him, orchids perfuming the air like calm over chaos. "Report," he said. "Varga," I said. "He's lying. Not about everything, but about enough." Wolfe nodded. As I suspected. Upstairs, the house creaked, old and watchful. Somewhere within it, the truth was arranging itself. And Nero Wolfe, birthday or not, was already setting the trap. Chapter 5, Lies Served After Dessert. By the time midnight rolled around, the brownstone had settled into a tense imitation of normalcy, the kind where everyone pretends they're comfortable while keeping one eye on the door and the other on the nearest weapon, imaginary or otherwise. Fritz had cleared away the dinner things, but Wolfe, true to form, had insisted on dessert. "Routine," he'd said, "is not suspended by homicide." So Fritz served strudel. Nothing makes people lie more convincingly than pastry. There's something about holding a fork that gives them the illusion of control. Wolfe sat in his chair, plate balanced with mathematical precision, beer within reach. The orchids upstairs perfumed the air with calm indifference. The guests sat where they'd been left, like chess pieces waiting for Wolfe to decide which one to knock over. I leaned against the desk, arms folded, watching. "Eat," Wolfe said to no one in particular. "You will think more clearly." Minetti poked at his dessert as if it might explode. Rudy Kestrel ate with appetite, eyes alert. Lila Kerr didn't touch hers. Dr. Varga tasted his and nodded approvingly, which earned him a glare from Fritz. I broke the silence. "So. Let's talk about lies." Minetti stiffened. "I object." "Save it," I said. "We've all lied tonight. The trick is figuring out which lie got a man killed." Wolfe dabbed his mouth. "Mr. Goodwin is correct. And we will begin with something simple." He turned his gaze to Dr. Varga. "You said Victor Talbot disappeared." Varga nodded. "That is the accepted fact." Rudy snorted. "Talbot's dead." Minetti said quickly, "I never said he wasn't." Wolfe's eyes moved from one to the other. "Yet only one of you can be correct. Unless, of course, you are all wrong." Lila Kerr's fingers tightened around her fork. "What are you suggesting?" "That Victor Talbot," Wolfe said, "was neither properly dead nor properly disappeared." The room went very still. I felt it then, the shift. Wolfe had found something, and like always, he was going to enjoy making it everyone else's problem. "Let's rewind 12 years, I said. Talbot was a financial consultant. Smart. Careful. And suddenly, poof. Minetti's laugh was thin. "People leave town. Not without luggage," I said. "Or money. Or a forwarding address." Rudy leaned back. "You digging up ghosts?" "Ghosts dig themselves up," Wolfe said mildly. "If they are improperly buried." Dr. Varga swallowed. "Just once. But I saw it." "Mr. Varga," Wolfe said, "you are a physician." "Yes." "You understand the mechanics of death." "Yes." "You also understand," Wolfe continued, "how easily death may be simulated." There it was. Not a conclusion, just a suggestion sharp enough to draw blood. Lila Kerr stood. This is absurd. Sit down, Wolfe said, not raising his voice. You will find that movement does not improve your position. She sat. I said, Pruitt knew something. He was scared. Someone was reminding him. Minetti snapped, I didn't call him. I didn't say you did, I said. Yet. Wolfe lifted a finger. Archie. I shut up. Wolfe was winding up. Mr. Pruitt, Wolfe said, was the weakest link. Nervous. Insecure. Burdened by guilt. Such men talk. And when they do, they are silenced. Rudy's eyes were hard. By who? Wolfe looked at his plate. That remains to be determined. The phone rang. Every head snapped toward it. I answered. Goodwin. The voice was different this time. Higher. Tighter. You're enjoying this, the voice said. Not as much as you think, I replied. You're late. A pause. Breathing. You won't stop it, the voice said. It's already done. Funny, I said. That's what Pruitt probably thought. The line went dead. I hung up slowly. Our mystery friend's getting nervous. Wolfe nodded. Good. Minetti shot to his feet. I won't stay here another minute. Kramer's voice came from the doorway. You will. The inspector had returned quietly, hat off, coat damp, eyes tired. Medical examiner confirms, Kramer said. Small caliber bullet. Professional job. Wolfe inclined his head. Thank you, Inspector. Kramer eyed the guests. Which one? Not yet, Wolfe said. Kramer sighed. You're enjoying this. I am enduring it, Wolfe corrected. After Kramer stepped aside, Wolfe did something interesting. He asked a question that sounded innocent. Mr. Minetti, he said, what was Victor Talbot's greatest flaw? Minetti blinked. What? His flaw, Wolfe repeated. We all have one. Minetti hesitated. Ambition. Incorrect, Wolfe said smoothly. Miss Kerr. She hesitated, then said, pride. Closer, Wolfe said. Mr. Kestrel. Rudy shrugged. Greed. Wolfe turned to Varga. Doctor. Varga's voice was soft. Fear. Wolfe smiled. A real one this time. Small. Dangerous. Precisely, Wolfe said. Victor Talbot was afraid of dying. Silence. And, Wolfe continued, that fear made him manipulable. Lila Kerr whispered, oh no. I felt it too, the click of something sliding into place. Not the whole picture. Just enough. Wolfe leaned back, picked up his beer, and took a measured sip. Archie, he said, observe their faces. I did. Minetti pale. Rudy angry. Kerr controlled. Varga composed, but tight. One of these people, Wolfe went on, has lied badly. Not about where they were. Not about what they did. But about what they believed. Rudy laughed harshly. You talking riddles now? No, Wolfe said. I am talking psychology. I stepped closer to Varga. You said Talbot disappeared. Yes. You said Pruitt asked you questions. Yes. You said some questions are dangerous. Yes. I leaned in. Dangerous to who? Varga met my gaze. Everyone. That answer was too broad. Too safe. Wolfe's voice cut in. Dr. Varga. Did you attend Victor Talbot's funeral? There it was. The devastating question. Varga froze. He stopped. Started again. There was no funeral. Wolfe's eyes gleamed. Exactly. No one breathed. Wolfe set his glass down. Ladies and gentlemen, dessert has been illuminating. He looked at me. Archie, we are close. I nodded. Close enough to smell it. Outside, a taxi horn blared. Somewhere in the city, the puppeteer was realizing the strings were tangling. And in Nero Wolfe's brownstone, with crumbs on plates and lies in the air, the truth was almost ready to be served. Chapter 6, The Brownstone Becomes a Trap. By 1 in the morning, Nero Wolfe's brownstone had stopped being a house and turned into a box. Not a coffin, yet, but something with walls that felt closer every minute. Outside, New York kept right on going, taxis sliding through wet streets, night shift diners serving coffee strong enough to float a spoon. Inside, we were sealed off with 1 corpse in the basement and 4 living secrets upstairs. Wolfe was back in his chair, as immovable as ever, beer at hand, eyes sharp. Fritz had retreated to the kitchen, offended by murder and offended by guests, which for him was a double insult. Inspector Kramer sat stiffly near the door, pretending patience. And the guests, Minetti, Kerr, Kestrel, and Varga, had begun to realize something important. They weren't leaving. Minetti paced for the 3rd time, shoes whispering on Wolfe's rug like they were afraid to speak up. "This is unlawful detention," he snapped. "I have attorneys." "You are an attorney," I said. "And you're still here." Lila Kerr shot me a look. "Don't start enjoying this, Mr. Goodwin." "I passed enjoying about 6 hours ago," I said. "Now I'm just curious." Rudy Kestrel leaned against the wall, arms folded, confidence cracking at the edges. "You think locking us in makes someone confess?" "No," Wolfe said calmly. "I think discomfort reveals errors." Dr. Varga sat quietly, hands folded, posture perfect. Too perfect. He hadn't asked to leave once. That bothered me. Wolfe broke the silence. "Inspector, I request your cooperation." Kramer sighed. "Here it comes. You will keep these people here for another hour. And then?" "And then," Wolfe said, "you will arrest someone." Minetti spun. "On what grounds?" "On sufficient ones," Wolfe said. "Patience." Kramer rubbed his face. "You better be right." "I always am," Wolfe said. "Eventually." That's when I noticed the detail I'd missed earlier, not big, not flashy. Just wrong. Varga's coat. It was hanging on the rack near the door, like everyone else's. But it was damp at the hem, darker than it should have been, like it had brushed against something wet. Basement wet. I walked over casually, pretending to stretch, and ran my finger along the edge. Cold. Damp. "Dr. Varga," I said lightly, "you take a stroll tonight?" He looked up. "No." "Funny," I said. "Your coat disagrees." Minetti leaned forward. "What are you implying?" "I'm implying," I said, "that the good doctor's been places he said he hadn't." Varga rose smoothly. "This is absurd." Wolfe's voice cut in. "Sit down, doctor." Varga hesitated. That was new. Then he sat. Wolfe continued, "You said you went upstairs briefly. You denied entering the basement. Yet your coat suggests otherwise." Varga adjusted his glasses. "Basements are damp places. This house has dry stairs," I said. "I just tested them with my shoes." Silence. Rudy laughed harshly. "So what? He went downstairs. That make him a killer?" "No," Wolfe said. "But it makes him dishonest." Lila Kerr stood abruptly. "Enough. You're all dancing around it. Pruitt was killed because of Talbot. Talbot was involved in fraud. Minetti financed it. Kestrel enforced it. Pruitt kept records. And Varga was the insurance," Wolfe finished. Every head turned. Varga went very still. Wolfe leaned back, fingers steepled. "A physician can certify death. Or simulate it." Minetti whispered, "No. Yes, Wolfe said. Victor Talbot did not die 12 years ago. He was declared dead. Rudy swore. You're saying Talbot's alive? I am saying, Wolfe replied, that someone wanted him believed dead. And someone else wanted him silent. My phone rang. I answered. Goodwin. The voice was calm again. Confident. You're close, the voice said. Close enough to hear you sweating, I replied. You won't stop it. I already have, I said. You just don't know it yet. A pause. Then, softly, he was supposed to stay dead. The line went dead. I looked at Wolfe. That was Talbot. Minetti collapsed into a chair. Impossible. Improbable, Wolfe corrected. Not impossible. Varga stood slowly. You have no proof. Wolfe smiled thinly. Not yet. That's when the lights went out. Total darkness. Someone shouted. A chair scraped. Instinct kicked in. Don't move. I yelled. A second later, emergency lights flickered on, dim and yellow, casting long shadows that made everyone look guilty. Rudy was near the door. Minetti had dropped something, keys. Kerr stood frozen. Varga was gone. I bolted. The back stairs were clear. The kitchen smelled of cold coffee and fear. The basement door was open. I took the stairs two at a time. At the bottom, I found Varga standing near Pruitt's body, holding something in his hand. A small pistol. He looked at me, eyes no longer calm. You should have let it rest. Funny, I said, gun raised. That's what the dead usually want. Footsteps thundered behind me. Kramer, Wolfe spoke surprisingly fast for short distances, the others trailing. Varga sighed. Talbot was afraid. He begged. I helped him disappear. And Pruitt? I asked. He threatened to talk. So you killed him? No, Varga said. Talbot did. That stopped me. Talbot came here, Varga continued. Tonight. He panicked. Pruitt recognized him. Where is he now? Kramer demanded. Varga smiled sadly. Gone. Wolfe spoke quietly. You lie, doctor. Poorly. Varga's smile faded. Wolfe continued, Victor Talbot is not a man who flees blindly. He remains nearby. Sirens wailed outside. Varga lowered the gun. The trap had sprung. And the birthday party was almost over. Chapter 7, Nero Wolfe's Birthday Speech. If you ever want to see a roomful of confident people lose 10 pounds of ego in under a minute, put them in front of Nero Wolfe when he's ready to talk. The basement scene ended without gunfire, which was a shame in a purely theatrical sense but probably for the best legally. Dr. Emil Varga was relieved of the pistol, Inspector Kramer relieved himself of several opinions, and everyone was marched back upstairs like a reluctant parade. The lights were back on, the house humming again, pretending it hadn't just tried to host a murder and a resurrection in the same evening. Wolfe reclaimed his chair. That was important. Wolfe does not explain himself standing. Explanations, like orchids and beer, are best handled seated. The guests were arranged where I could see them all, Minetti stiff and gray, Rudy Kestrel defiant but sweating, Lila Kerr composed to the point of brittleness, and Dr. Varga silent, his calm finally cracked. Inspector Kramer hovered near the desk, arms folded, waiting for Wolfe to earn his salary. The scent of orchids drifted down the stairs, heavy and sweet, like the house was holding its breath. Wolfe lifted his beer, took a measured sip, and began. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, this gathering was arranged with a purpose. Not celebration. Not nostalgia. Retribution. Minetti croaked, by whom? Wolfe's eyes flicked to him. Patience, Mr. Minetti. You have had 12 years of it. That landed. Wolfe continued, Victor Talbot was a man of numbers. Accounts. Percentages. Futures. He was also a coward. Rudy bristled. You don't know him. I know him sufficiently, Wolfe said. His fear of death was profound. Exploitable. Varga shifted. Wolfe noticed. 12 years ago, Wolfe went on, Talbot was entangled in a financial enterprise that involved fraud, coercion, and violence. Rudy smiled thinly. Allegedly. Undoubtedly, Wolfe corrected. Mr. Minetti financed it. Mr. Kestrel enforced it. Miss Kerr managed its legal obfuscations. Mr. Pruitt recorded its transactions. Minetti sputtered. That's accurate, Wolfe said calmly. You need not interrupt. I leaned against the desk, arms crossed, enjoying the view. This was Wolfe at full throttle, slow, deliberate, and unstoppable. When the enterprise collapsed, Wolfe continued, Talbot faced exposure. He chose disappearance. Lila Kerr spoke tightly. He was declared dead. Yes, Wolfe said. Declared. Not examined. Not buried. His gaze settled on Varga. A physician was required. Varga swallowed. Dr. Varga, Wolfe said, you certified a death that did not occur. Varga said nothing. Wolfe let the silence do the work. Talbot lived, Wolfe said, under another name, protected by the belief that he was dead. That belief was maintained by fear and money. Minetti whispered, this is insane. No, Wolfe said. It is economical. Inspector Kramer cleared his throat. And Pruitt? Wolfe nodded. Mr. Pruitt was never comfortable. Guilt eroded him. Recently, he was contacted. I said, by Talbot. Wolfe inclined his head. Talbot feared exposure. He also feared the others discovering he lived. Rudy barked a laugh. So he kills Pruitt and runs. Wolfe's eyes sharpened. Does he? That shut Rudy up. Wolfe continued, Mr. Pruitt was invited here because he was the most likely to speak. His death was intended to be a warning. Lila Kerr's voice was low. A warning to whom? Wolfe's gaze moved across the room, touching each face like a blade. To all of you. The clock ticked loudly. Even the house seemed to listen. Wolfe leaned back. However, the plan was flawed. Minetti scoffed weakly. How? Because it required subtlety, Wolfe said. And the participants lacked it. I smiled. That was Wolfe's version of calling someone clumsy. The invitation, Wolfe went on, was designed to draw you here. Anonymous. Imperious. Effective. He gestured slightly with his glass. The phone calls, the interruptions, the murder, all intended to create panic. Dr. Varga finally spoke. You cannot prove. I am not finished, Wolfe said. Varga closed his mouth. Wolfe continued, one of you believes Talbot to be alive. One believes him dead. One believes him gone forever. Only one believes him nearby. That did it. Rudy shifted. Minetti's eyes darted. Kerr's jaw tightened. Varga stared at the floor. I felt it, the pressure building, like a held breath. Wolfe said, that belief dictated behavior. He turned to me. Archie. Yeah. You observed a detail. The coat, I said. Basement damp. Wolfe nodded. And the weapon? Small caliber. Easy to conceal. Medical familiarity helps. Varga flinched. Wolfe raised a hand. Do not misunderstand. Dr. Varga is not the murderer. Kramer straightened. Then who? Will be named shortly, Wolfe said. He looked at his watch. I dislike prolongation, Wolfe said. But I dislike error more. Minetti snapped, this is torture. Wolfe's eyes were cold. No, Mr. Minetti. This is clarity. Wolfe leaned forward now, voice gaining weight. Victor Talbot is in this house. That hit like a dropped plate. Rudy laughed sharply. You're crazy. No, Wolfe said. He could not resist witnessing his own reckoning. Nor could he risk remaining absent when suspicion turned inward. Lila Kerr whispered, "Oh my God." Wolfe's gaze swept the room once more. "One of you," Wolfe said, "is not who they claim to be." I felt my pulse kick up. Wolfe reached for his beer, took a final sip, and set it down with decisive care. "Inspector," Wolfe said, "prepare yourself." Kramer muttered, "For what?" "For an arrest," Wolfe said. "But not yet." There was a collective exhale, half relief, half dread. Wolfe settled back into his chair, the monarch at rest. "It is my birthday," he said dryly. "I will conclude this momentarily." I caught his eye. He gave me the faintest nod. The trap was closed, all that remained was to spring it. Chapter 8, A Quiet Celebration at Last. There's a moment right before Nero Wolfe finishes a case when the air in the room changes. You can't see it, but you feel it, like the city right before a blackout, or a boxer just before the punch lands. Wolfe had that look now, calm, satisfied, and faintly irritated that it had taken this long. He shifted in his chair, adjusted his weight with care, and folded his hands over his stomach. The guests sat stiffly, every one of them suddenly aware that the game was over and the score about to be read aloud. "Mr. Goodwin," Wolfe said. That was my cue. I moved to the door and locked it, loudly. No drama, no speeches, just the click of finality. Rudy Kestrel laughed, sharp and nervous. "You locking us in now?" "No," I said. "I'm locking the truth in with us." Wolfe nodded approvingly. Victor Talbot, Wolfe began, was not murdered 12 years ago. He was rescued, from accountability. Minetti's face crumpled. "You said he's here." "Yes," Wolfe said. "And he has been all evening." Silence thickened. Everyone looked at everyone else. Wolfe continued, Talbot's greatest fear was not prison. It was insignificance. Disappearance tormented him. He wanted to be feared, remembered, decisive. Wolfe's eyes shifted, not dramatically, just deliberately. To achieve this, Wolfe said, he required two things, a fabricated death, and a controlled re-entry. Lila Kerr whispered, "That's impossible." "On the contrary," Wolfe said. "It is elegant." He raised a finger. "Mr. Kestrel." Rudy stiffened. "What about me?" "You enforced Talbot's will," Wolfe said. "You threatened, coerced, collected. But you were never the architect. You lack subtlety." Rudy's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. "Mr. Minetti," Wolfe went on, "you funded the enterprise. You feared exposure but not death. You believed Talbot dead." Minetti nodded weakly. "Miss Kerr," Wolfe said, "you managed the legal aftermath. You suspected Talbot might be alive, but had no proof." She swallowed. "I hoped he wasn't." Wolfe turned his gaze at last to Dr. Emile Varga. "And you," Wolfe said, "were indispensable." Varga straightened. "I told you, I did not kill Pruitt." "Correct," Wolfe said. "You did not." Kramer frowned. "Then who did?" Wolfe smiled thinly. "Victor Talbot." The room exploded. "That's insane." Minetti shouted. "He's not here." Rudy snapped. Varga whispered, "No." Wolfe raised his voice, not loud, but commanding. "Victor Talbot killed Calvin Pruitt because Pruitt recognized him. I said, at the diner. 9th Avenue. Last week. Every head snapped to me. Pruitt saw him," I continued. "Different name, same fear. Same eyes." Wolfe nodded. Talbot panicked. "He followed Pruitt here tonight." Kramer demanded, "Where is he?" Wolfe's eyes didn't waver. "Inspector, Talbot is masquerading." Silence again. This time sharper. Wolfe said calmly, Dr. Emil Varga does not exist. Varga stood up so fast his chair tipped over. That's absurd, he cried. No, Wolfe said. It is meticulous. I stepped forward. Your medical credentials. Real. Your accent. Practiced. Your fear responses. Wrong. Wolfe continued, a physician capable of falsifying death certificates would understand how to create a second identity. Talbot became Varga. Varga shook his head wildly. You can't prove. You made one mistake, Wolfe said. You believed your own disguise. Varga froze. You spoke of Talbot in the third person, Wolfe said, but emotionally. You defended his fear. You knew too much, and felt too deeply. Kramer stepped forward. You're saying Varga is Talbot? Yes, Wolfe said. And that he killed Pruitt in the basement with a suppressed pistol he brought for contingency. Varga laughed, high, broken. You're brilliant, he said softly. But you're late. He lunged. I was faster. The gun barked once, mine, not his, and Varga went down hard, the fight gone out of him like a snuffed candle. Kramer was on him in a heartbeat, cuffs snapping shut. As they hauled him up, Varga, Talbot, looked at Wolfe with something like admiration. I wanted you to know, he said hoarsely. That I won. Wolfe regarded him coolly. You wanted to be seen. Yes, Talbot breathed. Even hated. Wolfe's voice was final. You are neither. Kramer led Talbot away, reading him his rights. The others sagged, relief, horror, exhaustion mixing into something close to shame. Minetti collapsed into a chair. Rudy stared at the floor. Lila Kerr closed her eyes. Fritz appeared silently and began clearing the room, restoring order with the solemnity of a priest. When it was over, truly over, the house felt like itself again. Wolfe sat back down. That mattered most. He took a fresh beer from Fritz, adjusted his position, and sighed, a small, satisfied sound. Archie, he said, what time is it? Just past 2, I said. Then, Wolfe said, my birthday has concluded. I smiled. Happy birthday, boss. He grimaced. Never again. The orchids upstairs released their scent into the quiet house. Outside, New York kept moving, indifferent and alive. And for the first time all night, Nero Wolfe had exactly what he wanted, silence, order, and a solved crime. Best birthday gift he'd never asked for.